Los Angeles is currently grappling with devastating wildfires that have resulted in significant loss of life and property. As of January 12, 2025, the death toll has risen to at least 24 people, with nearly 200,000 residents displaced due to the fires. The two major blazes, known as the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire, have been particularly destructive. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office reports that 8 deaths are attributed to the Palisades Fire and 16 to the Eaton Fire. Governor Gavin Newsom has described these wildfires as potentially the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history, with economic losses preliminarily estimated between $135 billion and $150 billion. The fires have ravaged communities from the Pacific Coast to Pasadena, destroying over 12,000 structures and overwhelming firefighting resources. In response to the crisis, Governor Newsom has deployed over 1,400 firefighters and initiated investigations into issues such as low hydrant water pressure, which have hampered firefighting efforts. The situation has also highlighted social disparities, with reports of wealthy residents hiring private firefighters at rates of $2,000 per hour to protect their properties, sparking public outrage. The community remains resilient, with evacuation orders being lifted in some neighborhoods. However, hazardous air quality continues to pose health risks, and the emotional toll of the disaster is profound. Efforts to contain the fires are ongoing, with firefighters battling against powerful winds and dry conditions. The road to recovery is expected to be long and challenging, as residents and officials work together to rebuild and address the underlying factors contributing to the increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires in the region. The recent wildfires in Los Angeles, California, have become a tragic and urgent crisis, with widespread destruction and loss of life. As of now, the fires have claimed at least 24 lives and displaced nearly 200,000 residents across the affected areas. The two major fires, the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire, have been particularly catastrophic, causing extensive damage to homes, businesses, and infrastructure. The Palisades Fire has destroyed vast stretches of land near the coast, while the Eaton Fire has caused havoc inland, particularly in communities near Pasadena. Combined, these fires have decimated over 12,000 structures, leaving many families homeless and facing uncertain futures. Local authorities and first responders are working tirelessly to contain the blazes, but powerful winds and dry conditions have made their efforts immensely challenging. California Governor Gavin Newsom has called the fires one of the most significant natural disasters in U.S. history, with economic losses preliminarily estimated between $135 billion and $150 billion. The destruction has sparked discussions about the state's preparedness for such events, especially considering the increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires due to climate change. The disaster has also revealed stark inequalities within the region. Reports of wealthy residents hiring private firefighting teams to protect their multi-million-dollar properties for as much as $2,000 an hour have drawn public criticism. Meanwhile, middle and lower-income communities face evacuation orders and the loss of everything they own without the same resources to shield themselves from the devastation. In some neighborhoods, evacuation orders have been lifted as fire crews make progress. However, the recovery process is just beginning. Hazardous air quality poses ongoing health risks, particularly for vulnerable populations, including children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing respiratory conditions. The emotional toll of these events is equally severe, with families grieving loved ones and communities rallying to support displaced residents. As firefighting efforts continue, questions about resource allocation, infrastructure, and long-term climate solutions are at the forefront of public and political discourse. The road to recovery will be long and challenging, requiring collaboration among local, state, and federal governments. Residents are determined to rebuild and learn from this disaster to better prepare for future crises. The Los Angeles wildfires have brought unimaginable devastation to Southern California, marking one of the darkest chapters in the region's recent history. The fires, fueled by strong Santa Ana winds and prolonged drought conditions, have left a path of destruction stretching from coastal neighborhoods to inland communities. The toll is staggering: 24 lives lost, nearly 200,000 people displaced, and entire neighborhoods reduced to ash. The two primary infernos, known as the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire, have unleashed chaos and heartbreak on an unprecedented scale. The Palisades Fire, raging through the coastal hills of Los Angeles, has consumed luxurious homes and scenic landscapes that were once symbols of tranquility. Meanwhile, the Eaton Fire, burning eastward near Pasadena, has devastated suburban areas, schools, and critical infrastructure. Together, these fires have destroyed over 12,000 structures, leaving countless families without shelter and belongings. As the fires continue to blaze, the combined damages are estimated to reach up to $150 billion, making this potentially the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. Emergency responders, firefighters, and volunteers are working around the clock to combat the infernos. Over 1,400 firefighters have been deployed, aided by aerial water drops and bulldozers carving fire breaks in the parched landscape. However, the challenges are immense. Low water pressure in hydrants has hampered efforts in some areas, and fierce winds have fanned the flames, making containment difficult. Despite their heroic efforts, the firefighting teams face an uphill battle against nature's fury. This disaster has also highlighted stark inequalities in the region. Reports have surfaced of wealthy residents hiring private firefighting crews to defend their sprawling estates for exorbitant fees, sparking outrage among the general public. These actions, though legal, have reignited debates about resource distribution and fairness in times of crisis. Meanwhile, working-class families in less affluent neighborhoods face the devastating loss of homes and livelihoods without the means to protect themselves. The human cost of these fires goes beyond the immediate loss of life and property. The hazardous air quality resulting from the fires poses a significant health risk to millions of residents, with smoke and ash blanketing the skies. Hospitals are reporting increased cases of respiratory issues, particularly among children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing conditions. The emotional toll is equally profound, as families mourn loved ones and grapple with the uncertainty of rebuilding their lives. Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, calling the wildfires a sobering reminder of the growing impact of climate change. He has emphasized the need for long-term solutions to address the underlying causes of these disasters, including investment in forest management, renewable energy, and community resilience programs. Experts warn that without significant changes, such catastrophic events will only become more frequent and severe. In the face of this tragedy, the resilience of the Los Angeles community shines through. Neighbors are opening their homes to displaced families, local organizations are coordinating relief efforts, and volunteers are delivering food, clothing, and supplies to evacuation centers. Despite the heartbreak, there is a collective determination to rebuild stronger and better. As the fires gradually come under control, attention will turn to recovery and rebuilding. The process will take years and require billions of dollars in aid and investment. Yet, amid the ashes, the Los Angeles wildfires of January 2025 will be remembered as one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in the history of California, leaving behind a legacy of destruction, heartbreak, and resilience. These fires, driven by fierce Santa Ana winds and years of severe drought, ravaged communities across Southern California, from the coastal hills to the suburbs of Pasadena. The devastation was unprecedented, with over 12,000 structures reduced to ash, 24 lives tragically lost, and nearly 200,000 residents displaced from their homes. The nightmare began when the Palisades fire erupted in the early hours of a windy morning, spreading rapidly through the dry brush of the hills near the Pacific Ocean. The blaze tore through wealthy enclaves in the coastal regions, consuming multi-million-dollar homes and beloved landmarks. Not long after, the Eaton Fire ignited in the foothills near Pasadena, spreading through densely populated neighborhoods with terrifying speed. The two fires overwhelmed local firefighting resources, prompting the deployment of over 1,400 firefighters from across the state. Firefighters worked tirelessly, battling the flames with water-dropping helicopters, bulldozers, and hand crews. But nature seemed intent on outpacing human efforts. Powerful winds caused the fires to jump containment lines, and in some areas, low water pressure in hydrants hampered the ability to combat the blazes effectively. The situation grew even more dire as evacuation orders were issued for entire towns, forcing families to flee in gridlocked traffic, with flames visible in their rearview mirrors. The economic impact of the fires was staggering. Preliminary estimates placed the cost of damages between $135 billion and $150 billion, making it one of the most expensive natural disasters in U.S. history. Thousands of businesses were destroyed, schools were burned to the ground, and critical infrastructure, including power lines and water systems, was severely damaged. Many residents returned to find nothing left of their homes but smoldering rubble and memories. Amid the tragedy, the fires revealed deep social inequalities in Los Angeles. Reports emerged of wealthy residents hiring private firefighting teams to protect their estates, paying as much as $2,000 per hour to shield their properties from destruction. These private crews, armed with advanced equipment, often succeeded where public resources were stretched too thin. For middle and working-class families, however, there was no such luxury. Entire neighborhoods were left to the mercy of the flames, highlighting a stark divide in how disasters impact different socio-economic groups. The fires also brought health crises. Smoke and ash blanketed the region, turning the skies an eerie orange and causing air quality to plummet to hazardous levels. Hospitals reported spikes in respiratory issues, particularly among vulnerable populations like children, the elderly, and those with asthma or other pre-existing conditions. Many residents were advised to stay indoors, but for those who had lost their homes, the only option was to seek shelter in overcrowded evacuation centers. As the flames raged on, stories of heroism and community spirit emerged. Firefighters worked 24-hour shifts, risking their lives to save others. Volunteers flooded evacuation centers with donations of food, clothing, and supplies. Neighbors opened their doors to displaced families, offering them a place to stay during their darkest hours. In the face of immense tragedy, the resilience of the people of Los Angeles shone brightly. Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency and called for immediate federal assistance. He described the fires as a grim reminder of the growing impact of climate change, which has made California's fire seasons longer and more destructive. Experts pointed to the need for better forest management, improved infrastructure, and a renewed focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Yet many acknowledged that addressing these issues would require years of effort and billions of dollars in investment. As the fires began to come under control, the focus shifted to recovery. Entire communities faced the daunting task of rebuilding from scratch. Insurance claims flooded in, but for many residents, especially